Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Monday, July 22nd, and that means it's time for another episode of Chatting with Agnes and Cecilia. Our topic today is chapter relations and alternatives to local connection. Chatting with Agnes and Cecilia is brought to you by Rogue Tulips, 501c Consulting and Association Management Services. Check us out at roguetulips.com. We're also a proud supporter of the 501c League, a virtual membership organization for everyone in the 501c community. Check that out at the 501cleague.net. And we're back recording. Hey, happy Monday, Agnes. Want to say hello to the audience?
Happy Monday, Cecilia. Happy Monday, our audience, wherever you are in the world. My name is Agnes Amos Coleman. I'm a consultant and an author, and I consult with Rogue Tulip. Over to you, Cecilia.
Great. Thanks, Agnes. And I'm Cecilia Supp. I'm the founder and principal at Rogue Tulips and have been in association management for many years, as has my friend Agnes. So we're here to hopefully share a little knowledge and wisdom with y'all. And so today we're talking about chapter relations. And some people may not remember this or ever have known this, but I was a chapter relations professional for many years, actually over 15 years in my career on staff at associations. I think chapters are incredibly important for the member experience. I've seen the emphasis go back and forth though, on local to regional to national and then back again. And a lot of this has to do with the economy. Because when the economy is growing, people tend to want to go to more national conferences. If the economy is shrinking, people tend to want to go to more local conferences or local events. But I think whatever the economy is doing, the local touch is very important because that's where members really experience the association on a regular basis. It's daily with their local colleagues and their fellow members from the organization in their city or state, depending on how you're organized. Not every organization, not every association, I should say, has chapters. And that's okay because there's still other alternatives for local activities. So what has been your experience with chapters, Agnes?
I think I pretty much agree with the summary of what you've provided there, Cecilia. And one of the things that I found out with member relations, member engagement, is that members do desire greater emphasis on building relationships, regardless of where they're located. And that's why it is not only important for 501c to continue to build on their member relation program, but to continue to look at ways to enhance it. And as you and I know in the association world and the 501c world, focusing on technology as an accelerator, it's very, very critical to member support and service delivery. And I believe that this is somewhat the way that we can strengthen the member engagement within 501c.
Yeah, that's a really excellent point because, as you know, I love technology and I'm always a proponent of let's use technology to connect. Let's do a Zoom call. Let's talk in real time. I really prefer the term real time to live because if you say live to me, the opposite of that is dead. So it's like, which reminds me of a great Elaine Boozler joke she used to do about driving past some of those clubs where they have dancing girls and they say, come see our live nude girls. And she would say, because they're so much better than the dead ones we used to have. And so that's kind of why I'm like real-time communication with technology and connecting people that way. So that daily thing of the live interaction, the real-time interaction is important, but things like Zoom and actually just the telephone allow us to do that in a real way. But one of the things that technology's actually done for us in the chapter area is allow the creation of virtual chapters. And I don't know if associations have really fully embraced that because a lot of the emphasis is on online communities, which I think is great. Online communities are very important. Like at ASAE, we have Collaborate. A lot of groups use services from companies like Higher Logic. So it's a great way for people to stay connected daily through their computer, and they can check topics and things on a regular basis, but it's not the same thing as a virtual chapter. And where a virtual chapter can fill in the blanks is that can be a chapter for people who don't live in an area where there is a local or state chapter. And so you, instead of no chapter, you have virtual chapter. And so, yeah, maybe it's very similar to an online community, but then the people in the virtual chapter could still get together at your annual conference or your mid-year conference, depending how your conference schedule works. So there's that aspect of it as well. One of the things that we did at ACHCA, which Agnes, I think you might remember this, we did something called networking hubs as opposed to a formal chapter. And why did we do that? Well, because a formal chapter requires a lot of work and effort on behalf of your volunteers. And you don't want your volunteers to have a second unpaid job simply because they want to be involved and help. A lot of chapter situations still ask chapters to do bylaws and articles of incorporation. And then, of course, you want to get your EIN number because you want to be able to file your taxes if you have to, depending on how your system's set up. And really, in today's world, it's so easy to connect. And do we really need to have this 19th century approach to 21st century networking and connection in our professions? Um, and so what we did at ACHC was offer people the opportunity to be a networking hub, which did not require all the paperwork, which was quite substantial at that organization. It was a
Mm-hmm.
rather onerous system. And what we did is we say, people, hey, you want to make a network hub? Great. And then we actually came up with a different name for it, ACHCA Local Link, because it abbreviated to all, which meant it was all for all. All
Mm-hmm.
people in the organization could get involved and have a local group to network with without all the fuss muss and having committees and boards of directors and bank accounts and all that stuff that you should be doing for your local groups anyway. So,
Mm-hmm.
what is your view on that?
I definitely agree with the minimum chapter requirements because if you're going to engage, first of all, let me back up a little bit, Cecilia. I'm a great proponent of the hybrid model, which is the based on traditional and virtual community. I think there is a need for our 501c community to definitely consider that. I don't see it as either or. I think the value would come from this hybrid model. But I do agree with the thought process that, having some kind of a minimum requirement will create a better engagement strategy.
Mhm.
Because to your point, you don't want your volunteers to begin to think that, oh my God, this is a full-time job. Then you would never be able to engage them.
Right.
They don't have enough time in the day as is. So you want to make it as minimal as possible and make it as fun as possible.
Yes.
And not only make it as fun as possible, but also making sure that you focus on those benefit incentives, those centralized discussion that brings everybody together, those forums and blogs that provides framework for them to do their jobs, because that's really what it's all about. Why am I a member of a 501c organization? I'm there to learn how to do my job better. I'm there to network with my peers. I'm there to find tools that would help me be better at what I do and help enhance my value in my organization. So we could really look at some of those values of peer-to-peer mentoring program, looking for toolkits to make our members successful, providing them that framework that provides them tools to help them better their job. So that's pretty much where my take on it. It's focusing on that value and incentives, as well as looking at some kind of a hybrid model that would really allow your members to engage.
That's really a great point, because I think maybe my comments came across a little too, well, either or, and I really don't intend that. So I'm glad you brought that up with the hybrid model, because I think any successful organization is going to have some hybrid to it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a great point. And also, it's, when it comes to chapters or local networking, you do still want to emphasize the value to the professional or to the person representing their company in an industry organization. It's like, why am I here? Well, I'm here for many levels of networking. When I was at Association Laboratory, we identified basically 4 or 5 different levels of networking. So you can't just say one of our benefits is networking. People network to meet like-minded people in their profession. They network to find a new job. They network to find new clients. They network to share knowledge, and they network to make friends. people do that. And so you join your organization. I've made a lot of friends over the years from being a member of ASAE, and for
Absolutely.
example, and just like working with a lot of different people over the years. Um, so when you're looking at that, you have to make sure you are still touching all those points, which comes back to the minimum requirements. Because
Mm-hmm.
even if you're doing something more informal, like a networking hub, you still have to have some minimum requirements. Like
Mm-hmm.
somebody has to be a contact person. You need to have at least 10 people in the area that want to get together. You have to make sure that they have a venue, or maybe you have to help them find one, maybe help them
Mm-hmm.
find a sponsor. But I think really taking away a lot of that kind of what I think of as the grand poobah attitude of chapters of like, well, we have officers and a whole board, and is basically like the mini me of the National Association. Is that really necessary? It
Mm.
used to be necessary, I think, in the 19th century because people didn't travel as much and communication took longer. And even in the early 20th century, between 1900 and let's say 1930, was communication took longer. So yeah, maybe you did want a mini me of the National Association, but it's not really necessary anymore because we can travel much more easily. We can contact each other instantly. We can use technology for virtual real-time communication. We can use that virtual real-time communication to build local in-person events.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really a lot of what goes on there. And also, with chapters, I have found over the years, again, having been a chapter relations professional at several organizations, a lot of the success of the program depends on the support of the chief staff executive.
Mm.
And that is just the way it is, because that's the way it is in the whole organization for everything. The tone starts at the top. So if you have a very supportive chief staff executive who loves the chapters, you're going to have a much easier time building a robust program than if your chief staff executive is like, well, chapters are okay, but I really focus on the board, which can happen, and that's another choice. So really also as a chapter relations professional, you need to reach out to the people on your staff team and your chief staff executive and educate them
Mm.
about what chapters are and why they're important, because everybody gets so focused on what they're doing. They don't quite understand how chapters affect them. So like if you write magazine articles for the organization and that's your job, you're probably not seeing how that's chapter relations is helping
Mm-hmm.
with that. So I had a job where I actually had to educate everybody on the staff about what my role was and why the people I worked with in our local network were important and how they supported the organization. And so it actually really helps. That cross training attitude really helps. And so cross training your teammates and your chief staff executive on chapter relations, it really helps make a much more powerful program and lets everybody get more out of it. And don't create onerous requirements for
Mm-hmm.
people. It's like, this is not like, and the reason I say like the grand poobah thing, because I often think of that old TV show, The Flintstones, and they belonged to the Water Buffalo Lodge, and they had the grand poobah was their leader, and they wore the funny hats, and they had the secret handshake and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, yeah, that's all well and good, and that's fun, but it's just not the way we live anymore. So, chapters should be fun. Like you said, Agnes, I think we overlook fun too much in associations. Associations should be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we call it work because it's work and it's not fun. But for the members, it should be fun because it's not their job. It's not their work. It's our work. So let's bring the fun back into the fundamentals of chapter relations. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a great closing line for today. So any closing thoughts, Agnes?
I think it all boils down to increasing information sharing, Cecilia. And we also have to remember, as we build and enhance a chapter relations program, we will find that it will be fun, it will enhance and improve bottom line for our associations. And ultimately, our members will be satisfied because it's meeting a need for them. So I think that that's definitely something that as association professionals, we definitely need to consider.
That's a great point. It really is a great value add. I agree. So, well, we're near the end of our time for today. So we want to thank you all for taking some time to watch it. And as Agnes and I always say, take 15 minutes and talk to somebody. You might learn something. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Goodbye for this week.